Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar combines the contents of both 4D21 R2 and 4D21 R3, giving you a complete overview in a single session. Throughout this webinar, we'll explore the latest capabilities introduced across both releases and see how they can help you build smarter and more efficient applications. Okay, let's take a look at today's agenda. We'll begin with AI for 4D, where we'll explore the newest AI-related additions. Then we'll move on to development and cover the latest enhancements for developers. Let's begin with AI for 4D. And with that, I'll hand it over to Fabrice, who will walk us through AI file context and the model aliases.
Hello everyone. Today, users expect applications that can do much more than simply store and display data. They expect intelligent features capable of understanding documents, extracting information, and answering questions instantly. With 4D AI Kit, integrating these AI-powered capabilities into your applications has become incredibly simple. In this example, we'll see how to upload a PDF file to OpenAI, ask the AI to analyze its content, generate a structured summary, and even answer user questions about the document, all directly from a 4D application. We'll also see how providers and model aliases allow you to completely separate AI configuration from your business code, making your applications easier to maintain and evolve over the time. Let's see it in action.
The first thing we're going to do before using 4D AI Kit is register in 4D the AI provider and the model we'll use to upload and analyze our PDF. I open the setting and go in the AI tab. I create an OpenAI provider. I select OpenAI from the list and I enter my API key and then test the connection. I can see that it works. Next, I'm going to create a model alias that points to a specific OpenAI model. I create a new model alias called OpenAI model. I select my provider and I can see the one I just created. Finally, I choose the model I want to use. Here, we automatically get the list of all models available from OpenAI. I'm going to select GPT 5.4 Mini. Now I save the configuration. Next, we'll look at the code that uploads the PDF file and creates a chat where we can ask questions about that file. But before that, the first thing to do is make sure that 4D AI Kit is properly installed. To do that, we go to Project Dependencies. If it isn't installed, as shown here, we go to GitHub, select AI Kit, and install it. Then we restart the application. And 4D AI Kit is installed. Now we can look at the code and update it with the AI provider and model alias we just created. Here we need the provider name. We go in the setting and copy our provider name and paste it here. Then in the chat section we need not only the provider but also the model. What's great about this approach is that we no longer need to specify the provider directly here. We simply provide the model alias and 4D automatically retrieves the appropriate provider information to connect to OpenAI. That's all that there is to do. We are ready to run the application. For the rest of the code, we'll go through it step by step as it executes. I launch the application. Here I specified the path to the file I'm going to upload to the OpenAI server. This is the file. It contains information about 4D. We're going to send this PDF to OpenAI and then ask it to analyze the document and generate a summary. First, we upload it to the server. On the first line, we instantiate the OpenAI class and pass it the OpenAI provider we created earlier. To upload the file, I provide its file path. I also add parameter specifying that OpenAI should keep the file for a maximum of 1 hour. I execute the line. The success status is true, which means the upload completed successfully. Here, I retrieve the file information returned by OpenAI. OpenAI sends back an object containing details about uploaded file, including its ID, which we'll use later during conversation to tell OpenAI which file we want it to read. Now that the file has been uploaded, I can ask the question I want to send to OpenAI. In this example, I want to know which product is discussed in the uploaded file. I submit the request. Here, I create another OpenAI object. This time, I don't provide a provider because the provider information is already included in the model alias. I create the object. Then I define my initial prompt and explain to OpenAI the role it should play during this conversation. In this case, it will act as an assistant specialist in file analysis. It must return its answer in text format and in English. Here, I initialize the chat with the prompt I just created. Next, I create an OpenAI message object containing both the question I wrote in the chat and the file ID obtained during the upload process. I then send this message, which includes the prompt and the file ID, to the AI server and wait for a response. Here, I receive a success status of true, allowing me to display the text returned by OpenAI. As we can see, OpenAI answered the question and provided a list of all the products mentioned in the PDF document. And that's it. In just a few lines of code, we've uploaded a PDF file to OpenAI, had it analyzed automatically, and displayed a structured summary directly within our 4D application. What's particularly interesting here is that the AI configuration is completely separated from the business logic thanks to providers and model aliases. Thank you.
Thanks, Fabrice. And with that, now that we've seen how AI can understand and work with your data, let's look at how to make search results even more relevant with vector-based ordering in ORDA queries. With 4.21 R2, you can now sort ORDA query results by vector similarity. So matching records are automatically ranked by semantic relevance. What's nice is that this works alongside traditional ORDA filters. You can combine vector ordering with your existing business criteria in the same query. The same capability is available in both ORDA and REST, making it easy to build intelligent search, recommendations, and other AI-powered experiences where the most relevant results naturally rise to the top. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mathieu, who will show us how JSON schemas can make AI responses more predictable.
Hello everyone. Thanks for being here. Today, I will show you something that solves one of the biggest pain points when building applications with AI, which is unpredictability. We'll explore the key role that JSON schemas play in getting reliable and structured responses from AI models. To make it concrete, I'll walk you through a real demo app where an AI agent autonomously analyzes incoming data and proposes validated actions in real time. By the end, you'll see how predictable AI lets you serve your customers faster and more relevantly while growing your revenue along the way. So let's dive in.
In this demonstration, I will illustrate a recent blog post by Vanessa about how to make AI predictable and the key role played by JSON schemas. So, within 4D21R3, we updated the JSON validate command to be able to take into account the JSON schema draft 2020-12, and this will allow you to validate much richer JSONs than before, notably with dates or with much more elaborate syntax. And this is where it gets interesting when you're working with AI. You will be able to, and it's very well explained in Vanessa's post, will be able to interact much better with artificial intelligence models. So, I'm going to show you this thanks to this demo application. So it's an application that serves an international event management company. This company organizes events for its clients, and those events are in locations that are all over the world. These locations can be theaters, amphitheaters, park, castles, and so on. And they can be either indoors or outdoors. You see that here. And for each event, the company will package meal services, services for communication, entertainment, furnishing, and so on and so on. Okay. We'll find this event here by client, and in the demo you will find approximately 250 of them, and each event is planned with a certain weather in mind. We've planned, for example, this event indoors, so the weather does not have an effect. But for example, this other event was planned with sunny skies ahead, and this one with sunny and hot temperatures. That's why we have air conditioning inside. All right. First, we see here in this column that on certain event, my client can reach out to me and ask for modification. That's one first event that can happen on such planned event. The second thing that can happen there, I'm going to refresh the weather with a pretty standard weather API, and I can receive here weather alerts. So there's no artificial intelligence yet in here. I'm just comparing the weather that was expected when we contracted the event with the forecast. So for this one, when I contracted the event, I expected a sunny day and hot temperature, and finally it will rain. So I need to open it, and I see the list of services contracted. I see the budget for this event, 34,000 euros, and I run my AI advisor that will propose me two actions here, two possible actions for this event after analyzing the services and the weather. These two actions, in fact, the AI returned them to me in JSON format, and I validated them with a schema. The key point here is that I will be able to confirm to make sure that the model responds to me properly so that I can, in my application, present this UI here correctly to the end user. Okay, so we will go further on and execute one of these actions. But before, let me grab the log file so that you can see what's going to happen in there. Okay, so We are going to replace it management services with rain ready services. Let's click. So what we can see here is that the AI will analyze the services that are packed, and you see here it's starting to query by itself our services catalog. And in a few seconds, it will propose me a set of services that are recommended for this action. That's it. So you see that it was kind of clever. It removes mobile air conditioning unit and some heater, and instead it proposes to add some new services to this event. So the good thing for me is that the balance, the cost balance, is positive. So in addition to anticipating things so that this event goes smoothly, I will get more revenue if this quote is accepted by my customer. So it's the moment to draft an email for him. So I use AI as well. And I will draft an email explaining the change, explaining that the forecast change. Do you accept this? Okay, I confirm this. And the AI automatically reassesses the event to ensure that no more residual actions could be necessary because of the forecast. So this list here will evolve until my event is safe weather-wise. And once again, the AI is querying my service catalog. So it does this by tool calling. I already talked about tool calling in several previous webinars, so we're not going to go back to it. In any case, here it queries my service catalog and looks for appropriate services based on the action being requested here. Okay, the impact is calculated. It consists in adding waterproofing and some heated flooring. So I'm free to accept or reject these impact, but it's also an additional revenue for me as a company. So that's great. And those two actions were proposed to me from AI through some JSON that I validate with the JSON schema. Let's open another event. We won't analyze weather this time, but we'll analyze an incoming email from the customer that requests an update on the meals. So I analyze this email, and directly here the AI knows that there's an update in the catering that should be made. So I press the action. Once again, AI will search my services repository, my services catalog. Let's check the logs here. Oh, it's already responded. All right, here, just this simple change. Once again, it's JSON that I validate with this schema. And this change, well, that's great. It's more revenue for me, and it was no effort for me. So I can directly draft the email with AI as like this, send the quote to my customer, and if he's okay, I confirm that. Okay, we can continue with maybe some last example here. This is an interesting example because here this venue has an indoor option. So it's an outdoor event, but in here I know that we have an indoor option. So here AI knows this. It also knows that there's an indoor option in there, and it knows that rain is expected instead of fair weather. So instead of just proposing to add new services for rain protection, it will also propose me to switch to an indoor event, to switch to the indoor reception hall here. And it's a rather complex operation because you have to remove the outdoor option, but you have also to remove the outdoor specific services, and starting from there, you're starting to lose revenue, to reduce the budget you have for this event. So here I specifically adjusted the prompt to ask AI to add services back to compensate the loss of revenue with some indoor specific services. And this is what we have here. So AI removes here the outdoor venue rental. It removes also several outdoor specific services, but instead it proposes me some relevant indoor services to compensate. And I also instructed it to be a little bit more, to always give me a little bit more, 10%, 20% more than the previous quote. So that's great. I can draft my email and propose to the customer these new options here. So I anticipate a weather change. Okay, dear customer, it will rain. This is how I propose you to transform your event to ensure that you will get a good experience with us. I chose this example to show you how with workflow automation and AI, you can better serve your customers and also at the same time get more revenue out of it. It's just a simple example. You could apply the same mechanism to error detection in invoicing, for example, or other business improvement use cases. Here, what you saw is, let's say, manual. I press buttons, I react, I analyze. But you can perfectly imagine that this kind of agents can run in the background, and when your end user, they arrive in the morning at their desk, there's a whole list of proposed actions just to validate, to cancel or to refuse or draft an email. This kind of process can drastically improve your productivity and the productivity of your customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. And with that, actually, this marks the end of our AI for 4D section. Then I'll hand this over to Bérengère that will present the rest of the sections.
So we will now move on the next part of this webinar, which covers some of the latest features in 4D development. I'll hand it over to Vanessa to present her demo.
Hello everyone! For many years, 4D has evolved alongside the visual evolution of operating system. With every new generation of macOS or Windows, the goal remains the same, enabling 4D applications to stay modern and fully consistent with the system without requiring a complete redesign of the interface. With 4D 21R4, this evolution continues, particularly with support for liquid glass on macOS Taoe, and while also extending the work already started around Fluent UI on Windows. And what is especially interesting here is that all this remains extremely seamless for developers. And from the user's perspective, the result is immediate. The applications feel more modern, more natural, and better integrated into the system. Let's go to the demonstration. During this demo, I'm going to display the exact same application side by side. And in just a few minutes, we look at three things: support for liquid glass on macOS Taoe, printing of modern interface, and finally, the modernization of the component library. Let's start with liquid glass. I'm opening the application with 4D21. And now I'm launching the exact same application, but this time with 4D21R3. And what is really interesting here is that I didn't rebuild anything, I didn't redesign the forms, I didn't add any specific code, I didn't create a new theme, and yet, look at the rendering. Standard controls automatically follow the system style. You can see the new button style with very rounded border here in this warning dialog box. And also here in the toolbar. Drop-down list, checkbox, all controls automatically adopt the system's new look. And from a development perspective, this is extremely comfortable, because 4D automatically follows the visual evolution of the operating system. This avoids major UI redesign phases every time the OS changes. And for users, the difference is immediately visible. The application feels more native, more consistent with macOS, and more pleasant to use. Now let's move on to printing. For printing documents, reports, or invoices, we obviously recommend using 4D Pro. But sometimes you simply want to print exactly what you see on screen. And this is precisely where modern interfaces created with Fluent UI on Windows and Liquid Glass on macOS can become both a technical and visual challenge. They look beautiful on screen, but they are not always ideal for paper's output. 4D21R3 introduced a new rendering engine for printing. I'm going to launch a print preview with 4D21, and here we get a rendering that is very close to what we see on screen, sometimes with a result that is less readable on paper, especially because of shadows or gradients. Now I launch the print preview with 4D21R3. On screen, we keep the native modern rendering, but for printing, the rendering becomes more contrasted and easier to read on paper, while still preserving important color whenever they were explicitly defined. And in the end, this brings three very concrete benefits. First, clearer printout immediately. Second, more consistent result between macOS and Windows, and most importantly, no changes are required in your existing printing system. So you can modernize the user interface without sacrificing the quality of printed documents. Last point, the object library. I'm going to open the form editor. Here I simply using object from the library. With 4D21R3, this object has been modernized so they display correctly with Fluent UI on Windows and Liquid Glass on macOS. So as soon as you start building a screen, you already begin with components that are consistent with modern visual standards. And this is not only cosmetic, the components have been modernized internally to follow recent 4D standards. The result is cleaner code, more readable code, and code that is easier to maintain and evolve over time. Concretely, for development teams, this means less time spent manually adjusting screen, more reuse, and a more stable foundation for evolving projects. And most important, there is nothing to do. The application automatically adopts the style of the operating system it runs on. To conclude, with 4D21R3, we are modernizing the user experience without requiring a complete redesign on the application. From a development perspective, it reduces UI maintenance work and simplifies future evolutions without questioning the existing application. And from the user's perspective, the application immediately feels more modern, more natural, and better integrated into the system. Ultimately, the objective is very simple: evolve the user experience while protecting existing applications.
Thank you, Vanessa. Now it's Marie-Sophie's turn to talk about a new enhancements for the Singletons and how to use it in Qodly pages.
Today, a satisfied user, and therefore a loyal one, is a user who is satisfied with what we call their user experience. It's your applications that provide this intuitive, clear, and reassuring experience. Your applications must excel on every level. Design, of course, but also performance and security. 4D Qodly Pro provides all of this. This is why we are doing everything possible to make your Qodly pages and your 4D forms work seamlessly together. With 4D Qodly Pro, you can easily apply your chosen design and protect your data against unauthorized access. Your traditional desktop application then becomes capable of delivering all of these benefits to your user. It's time now for a demo. Welcome to this demo. In this demo, I am going to show you how to integrate Qodly pages even more easily into your desktop application and explore the opportunities 4D Qodly Pro opens up. The demo I am going to run allows users to view products. So the demo is open here on 4D server, and here is here the 4D remote client. So I'm going to show you the final demo firstly. So I run it. So I can view product like this in a list box, and I can switch to a mosaic view, and this view is a web area displaying a 4D Qodly Pro page. 4D Qodly Pro gives you much greater flexibility in terms of design. You can quickly and easily implement your chosen UI in a fully WYSIWYG way. So what you see is what you get. Here I have created a grid with a card for each product. 4D Qodly Pro also provides ready-to-use custom components like maps, allowing users to locate a place. And this kind of component is not available natively in 4D, so it would be impossible to achieve a map with only 4D and without 4D Qodly Pro. You can also create responsive designs like this one. And implementing a responsive mosaic layout like this in a native 4D form is very complex without 4D Qodly Pro. So 4D Qodly Pro brings real added value when it comes to UI and design. And in addition, these same 4D Qodly Pro pages can be reused and executed directly in a web browser if later you decide to provide a browser-based access to your application. And for those wondering, you can see here on my 4D server that only one license is being consumed. Now I am going to show you how to implement the web area and the product's Qodly page. In 4D, in the Explorer, in the Forms section, we have a Qodly Pages folder. In this folder, I can easily start creating my 4D Qodly Pro pages with a simple right-click, New Qodly Page. The page name is Products. A browser opens to launch 4D Qodly Pro, and I insert this craft component able to list products. Before starting, I just remove all the paddings like this, and this matrix is bound with the product's Qodly source. So I quickly create this Qodly source on the product's data class. And this Qodly source will contain all the products. I can run a preview inside 4D Qodly Pro, and I can verify that all is OK. If I go back to my 4D Explorer. In the Qodly Pages folder, I have my Qodly Pages. And I can also edit an existing Qodly page like this with a right click if I want to work on my page again. Creating and editing Qodly pages directly from the 4D Explorer is a new feature introduced in 4D 21.R3. Now on my 4D form, we are going to create the web area. So I drag and drop the web area. The object name is products page, and I change the size. When I click on the View Product button, I call the View Product functions on the form object. My 4D form is handled by a form class, this products form class. And in this View Product function, when we work with 4D Qodly Pro, we run this function display products in Qodly page, and we are going to implement this function together. I copy paste the code and I explain you step by step. We use the OpenURL command to display the 4D Qodly Pro page in the web area, but before we build the URL. So in the URL we put the server URL prefix, then we put the 4D Qodly Pro rendering engine prefix, and finally we put here the Qodly page name, which is products. We want to leverage the client-server session we have here on the server. We want to leverage it to manage web accesses, and displaying a 4D Qodly Pro page in a web area is a web access. So for this, we add this $4DSID parameter in the URL, and its value is an OTP, a one-time password. And we get this OTP with this create OTP function on the session object. For OTP, you have a related blog post with more details. Web and REST accesses, and therefore 4D Qodly Pro accesses, can benefit from protection against unauthorized data access. In Qodly Studio, here in the Roles and Privileges section, I have a View Product privilege. This privilege is required to read the products table, and without this privilege in the session, I can't read the products table. So let's have a first run without handling this View Products privilege. I can display my products in the list box because with client server there is no native permissions system. But if I try to display the products in the web area, it fails because the required privilege View Products is not granted. So this is another major advantage of 4D Qodly Pro. Now I am going to uncomment the line, and we are going to put this privilege in the session. So to do this, I have a session utilities class. It is a singleton with a set privilege function. This function receives a privilege as parameter and adds it in the session. So the singleton is created here on the client, and then we call this function passing the View Products privilege as parameter. But for security reasons, privilege updates must be performed on the server. So thanks to this new server keyword, this is now very simple to do this. This function is always executed on the server thanks to this new keyword. So there is no longer any need for you to create a project method just to execute this kind of code on the server. And this new server keyword is another feature introduced in 4D21 R3. To work with my session node, I use here a session singleton because its instance is shared across all processes of a current session. This is the appropriate class type for this kind of operation. And as you can see, the session singleton here extends the capabilities of the session command. So back to the code here. So we are going to run the final test. So I can view my products here in the list box, and I can also view them here in my 4D Qodly Pro page because I have the required privilege. So as a conclusion, you can see that integrating 4D Qodly Pro pages into your desktop application is straightforward. 4D Qodly Pro provides significant UI and design advantages and a highly modular roles and privileges management system fully centralized at the data access level, helping you protect your data and business functions from unauthorized access. This is something that is not available in traditional client-server applications. So don't wait any longer to start integrating Qodly pages into your applications because 4D Qodly Pro is 4D. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Marie-Sophie, for this demo. And to go beyond this session object, we will go in detail on how these enhancements remove a lot of unnecessary client-server plumbing. In client-server applications, every connected user already has a dedicated session on the server, often used to store things like user information, permissions, or workflow context. Until now, if you wanted to access that session object from a 4D client, you had to create server-side a method just to retrieve the information. With 4D21 R3, that's no longer necessary. The session command can now be called directly from the 4D client and returns its own session context automatically. The result is cleaner code and fewer wrapper methods. It provides a much simpler way to build session-aware application while maintaining access to the user context. Without further delay, I'll hand over to Damien to show us his demo on a different topic.
Hello everyone. The following demo showcases a use case for the 4D method class. The scenario we are looking at today is simple, and you've probably already run into it. Personally, it sometimes happened to me back when I was a 4D developer. Picture this. A client calls you up. They urgently need a specific statistic or a data extraction that you hadn't planned for in your application. Now, you could develop the request directly inside the app. But the time it takes for testing, building, and deploying is just too long. To solve this problem, integrating a small tool into your application based on the new method class can completely save the day. Let's go. Hi everyone. In this demo, I'm going to show you how the new method class in 4D21 R3 allows you to make your deployed applications more adaptable than ever. We'll be using a demo application you probably are familiar with, Invoices. As a reminder, this small application available on GitHub manages billing data. We can view the list of products, customers, and invoices, along with their line items. In this app, I readied a dialog to manage and execute 4D code. This dialog was entirely vibe coded using AI. We can type in 4D code, check its syntax to avoid errors, and finally execute it. When I open the application project in VS Code, we can see the code behind the buttons inside the form class. Here you can see a method object being created from the input area, followed by a call to the check syntax function. Then we see the code execution using the call function. Of course, in your own applications, I highly recommend securing access to a dialog like this one to prevent any unauthorized operations. In VS Code, I simply ask Copilot for the required statistic. I want to generate 4D code into a 4DM file placed on the desktop. The code should generate an Excel file containing statistics. I want to list the invoiced products. I want the products that generated the highest margin to appear first. Copilot analyzes the project and generates the code. Alright. I head back to my invoices application. I open the generated file. I check the syntax. Everything looks good. I run it. Which open Excel with the newly generated file. Looks great. The products are properly sorted by margin. Oh wait, I don't want the tax columns. So I ask Copilot to make that adjustment. I go back to invoices, open the code, and run it. That's better. Oh, actually no. My client wants a sorted based on the margin rate, not the overall margin. Let's send another request to Copilot. Okay. The spreadsheet is perfect now. I can send them the file so they can execute it directly on their live production application. The client has requested another spreadsheet, the list of top customers with their annual revenue. Once again, the AI is going to generate the appropriate code for me. I open it in Invoices. Finally, I'm going to ask the AI to give the spreadsheet a nice visual polish. It's not what I expected. I have to give more precision. I open the updated code, run it, open the generated Excel file. Oh, impressive, isn't it? I wanted to show you another cool feature of the method class, debugging, even within a compiled application. I add a trace command and execute the code. Look, the debugger pops up, and I can inspect the execution just like in 4D. This is incredibly useful for fine-tuning your code, and that wraps up this demo for the method class introduced in 4D21 R3. It opens up some exciting possibilities, allowing you, depending on your needs, to modify business rules, patch code, perform data maintenance, or, as we saw here, extract data. And all of this without needing to update the deployed application. Pretty amazing, right? Happy vibe coding!
Now, Majda, I think you have prepared a demo on a new feature in 4D Write Pro.
We are going to talk about the latest addition to 4D Write Pro. As you know, over the years, 4D Write Pro has evolved into a powerful document generation and document editing engine that enables developers to create professional documents directly within their applications. It indeed gives you complete control over both the content and the presentation of your documents. That being said, up until now, creating complex numbered hierarchies might have been a little bit challenging. However, with 4D21 R3, this is no longer the case. You can now create multi-level lists whose hierarchy, numbering, and formatting is managed automatically.
In this demo, we'll show you step by step how to create, manage, and customize your multi-level lists using 4D Write Pro. We will start with the how do I that you can find in our 4D depot, which is of course available for download. We will begin with a simple numbered list, a simple example to better visualize what happens as we build the hierarchy. Let's see what we have applied to our paragraphs. A style sheet called my numbered. For now, our list is flat. It has only one level. So let's add a new level by applying our new standard action, list level append. Let's see what has changed. Look, a new style sheet was added, my numbered list level 2. What's special about it is that it is related to the style sheet we have started with, my numbered list. Since we have already created our second level, now we can simply increase the level by applying our new standard action, list level inc. And of course, just like we can increase a level, we can also decrease a level. And for that, we also have a new standard action, list level dec. Once we arrive at the root, we cannot decrease levels anymore. Naturally, we also have the same limitation in the other direction. Once we arrive at the last level, we cannot increase levels anymore. So we have to append a new level to this list again. And therefore, we can increase to the next level again. Now, let's see what style sheets have been created. As you can see, we have 3 levels, and the third level is applied to our current paragraph. The second level is applied to this paragraph, and the root level is applied to this paragraph. Now let's do some customizations, shall we? Let's concatenate the numbering format of the second level with the one of the first level. We're doing that with our new toggle standard action list concat string format. Let's also concatenate the numbering marker of the third level with the second one. Or you know what? I've changed my mind. I'd rather change its format. I'll add parentheses to it, using another new standard action, list number format. And as you can see, if we add other paragraphs, the numbering in the list gets updated automatically. Same thing if we remove paragraphs. These were our new, practical, easy-to-use standard actions for managing multi-level lists. But if you are more on the developer side and you prefer to have total control over what you do, we'll show you how to manage multi-level lists programmatically. These commands you are already familiar with. They have simply been enhanced in order to support multi-level lists. Let's start with WP new style sheet. We have added this parameter that indicates we want 3 levels. Here we get the 3 style sheet objects that represent the 3 levels. We call them level style 1, level style 2, and level style 3. Here we customize each level with specific 4D Write Pro attributes. The font size, the font, the list font, the font bold, etc., just like you would do with any other style sheet. And now we apply to each paragraph the appropriate style sheet of the appropriate level. And here is the end result. So let's export our list to all the supported format by 4D Write Pro, shall we? First we have docx, then PDF, then SVG, and finally HTML. Let's go back to the optional step and delete a style sheet from the hierarchy. We have chosen to delete the 3rd level, and we did that using the existing command wp delete style sheet. Here is the effect of that deletion. One final step before we're done. Let's open what we exported. Here is the docx export. This is the HTML export, the PDF export, and finally the SVG export. As you can see, for all supported formats, the list is exported with all its levels, its indentations, and its styles intact. Well, this is the end of our demo. But before we wrap up, let's take a step back and look at what we've accomplished. In just a few minutes, we've seen how easy it is to create, manage, and customize multi-level lists in 4D Write Pro. We started with a simple flat list, transformed it into a structured hierarchy, customized the numbering formats, and watched the numbering automatically adapt as content was added or removed. We've also seen that this functionality is available from both perspectives, through intuitive standard actions for end users and through powerful commands for developers who need complete programmatic control. Most importantly, multi-level style sheets help solve a very common challenge in document generation: maintaining structure. They can ensure consistency while dramatically reducing manual formatting work. And because multi-level lists are fully preserved when exported, your users can continue working seamlessly with formats such as docx, PDF, HTML, and SVG. This is another step forward in making 4D Write Pro an even more powerful document generation and document editing solution for your business applications. And we're not stopping here. In future versions, we'll be introducing a dedicated graphical user interface for multi-level style sheets, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for joining us today. We encourage you to download the How Do I, read the code in your own time, explore the documentation, the blog post, and try the feature in your own projects. We're looking forward to seeing what you'll build with it.
Now, the next improvements focus on something every developer deals with every day, which is finding mistakes before they become errors. With 4D21 R2 and R3, syntax checking is now much more smarter and more consistent across the entire development experience. Type inference is fully aligned between the 4D editor, VS Code, and the compiler, so you get the same result everywhere. Error detection is also more precise. Instead of highlighting the entire expression, 4D now pinpoints the exact token causing the issue even inside multiple expressions. So you can simply hover over the highlighted code to see the error instantly, and command parameters are now validated directly against the documented parameter types while you write. The result is faster feedback, fewer surprises during compilation, and a smoother coding experience from start to finish. Now, if your team uses GitLab, managing reusable components just became much more easier. With 4D21R3, you can add components directly from GitLab repositories, whether they're hosted on gitlab.com or your own private GitLab server. The experience is very similar to GitHub integration. Simply add the repository from the project dependencies interface. Choose how you want to manage versions, and 4D handles the rest. Components are downloaded automatically and become available after a restart, making it easy to share and reuse functionalities across all your projects. As projects grow and more components are added, finding the right code quickly becomes increasingly important. With 4D21R2, Find in Design can now search not only the host project, but also individual component or all accessible components at once. Search result clearly indicates which component each match comes from, making navigation, troubleshooting, and refactoring much easier. To make components easier to identify visually, you can now assign a custom icon simply by adding an SVG or PNG logo to the component's resources folder. The next feature brings real-time email awareness directly into your 4D applications. Traditionally, applications had to poll a mailbox every few minutes to check for changes. With IMAP idle, that model changes completely. Instead of asking the server if something happened, the server notifies your application the moment it happens. So you can now react instantly when a new email arrives, when a message is deleted, or when a message flags are updated using dedicated event callbacks. The result is a more responsive user experience, less unnecessary network traffic, and a cleaner event-driven approach to email synchronization. And the last enhancements we wanted to present to you today simplifies secure authentication across both Windows and macOS. With 4D21R3, HTTPS requests can now use certificates stored directly in your macOS keychain, complementing existing support for the Windows certificate store. The best part is that nothing changes in your code. You simply reference the certificate by name using the store certificate name attribute, and 4D automatically retrieves it from the store on your OS. That means no certificate files on disk, no platform-specific logic, and no separate implementations for Windows and macOS.
There was one question about AI. I already answered it. The person asked if there will be an AI 4D code generator built in 4D that is specialized on 4D syntax. and knows his database structure. So I pointed him to the blog post we wrote about how to set up everything with VS Code and GitHub Copilot. So with this, he has what he needs. But I really recommend everyone interested in AI coding to read this blog post.
So the features we covered today are only part of what's included in 4D21, R2, and R3. That includes a few enhancements we didn't have time to cover today, such as automatic list indentation in 4D Pro, the removal of the legacy network layer with automatic migration to Subnet and Quick, and the latest Spread.js 18.2 updates in 4D View Pro. But speaking of the 4D blog, did you notice something in the past few weeks? I think Basma had something to say about this new blog.
Before we wrap up, let's take a quick look at the new 4D blog experience. We've redesigned it to make finding content faster and more intuitive, with featured articles selected by the product team and a new navigation experience organized by product, topic, and learning resources. And here's something I am excited about. Instead of searching with keywords, you can simply describe what you need. Let's try. How can I modernize a legacy 4D application with AI? And there it is. The article is actually called Give AI to a 30 years old 4D application, a title we never searched for. That's the power of AI-driven semantic search. You can also narrow results using categories, tags, and authors. What's even more interesting is that this isn't just a blog feature. It's a practical example of what you can build in your own applications with 4D21, 4D AI Kit, and vectors. We've also added likes, sharing, and we're working on deeper integration with the 4D forum to keep conversations going beyond the article. Take a look after the webinar and let us know what you think.
Yeah, there's a title on the page. The person asks us about a feature that we haven't presented today about editing roles, privileges, and HTTP handlers visually in VS Code. In fact, it was a little bit too soon to really have a demo today about it, but you will see in a few days a blog post about it. It's a new extension that we will propose in a few days for VS Code, where currently you will have access to a role and privileges editor and HTTP handlers editors within VS Code. So it's the start of a new extension we are currently building for VS Code for you to have more than just the code analyzer and AI in VS Code. So stay tuned, you will see much more about it, and probably in the next webinar we will demo it with lots of things inside.
We reached the end of today's webinar. Thank you for joining us today. And if questions comes up later, reach out to your 4D representative or continue the discussion on the 4D forum. And we look forward to what you build next with what we've presented today. So thank you all, and I guess have a great day.
Yeah, thank you all. And thank you, Basma and Bérengère. Perfect job.
Oh, before we go, it's just a thank you. I thought we have a question, but you said thank you.
Not a problem.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.